On my boyfriend's birthday. I was on a business trip outside. He complained that I didn't have time to accompany him. I didn't say anything because I was holding a cake and hiding in the study with a group of friends, wanting to give him a surprise. However, my boyfriend, who was being affectionate with me on the phone 1 second ago, was planning with my good friend in my wedding room how to get money from me the next second. I stood behind the monitor. And along with his partner, junior schoolmate, and good friends, we saw everything clearly. The situation was extremely awkward for a while. On the computer screen, Judas held Jezebel in his arms. Their sweet appearance made them look just like a loving couple. Who would have thought that these two people were my boyfriend and my best friend respectively? Jezebel, my good friend who had been with me for 6 years, giggled. Her high heels with mud on them stepped on my sofa, which was worth 200 yuan. While eating the fruit that Judas fed her, she asked in a coquettish voice, "Judas, were you this attentive when you were with Astraea? How can she be as gentle and lovely as you? She always keeps a straight face as if someone owes her money. It's so boring." Hearing this, Jezebel laughed even more happily. She seemed very proud. Then, let out a low sigh. Compared with her, who do you like more? Of course it's you. Jezebel's voice was sweet, and she said coquettishly, "Then why are you getting married to her so soon?" Judas didn't hesitate at all in his answer. "Don't you know why I'm marrying her? I need investment, and Astraea's family is rich. She's also an only child. As long as I marry her, won't all these things be mine then?" "That's true," Jezebel agreed, but with a hint of dissatisfaction. "Then when you get married, won't I be the mistress?" Judas burst into laughter and kissed her delicate face with a loud sound. "Do you still care about this? Then what are we doing now?" Jezebel's eyes twinkled. And she hugged Judas even tighter. Giggling, "Of course I don't care. What I mean is, after you get married, it seems more fun for us to continue being together while hiding it from Astraea. Isn't it fun now? This is our wedding room. And this sofa was personally chosen by Astraea from abroad. She hasn't even lain on it like this herself. Is it comfortable?" "It's comfortable. But later I still have to go back to Astraea's house to get the living expenses. If we're found out, my 100 yuan living expenses per month will be gone. It's only 100 yuan. After I get married to Astraea, I'll give it to you. I can even give you the entire Astraea family." Judas burst into laughter. I stared fixedly at the computer screen, almost torturing myself, forcing myself to see clearly the appearance of Judas and Jezebel. "Stop looking. Astraea. Stop looking." My childhood friend Serena came forward and directly exited the monitoring screen. Then she looked at me with pity. "Astraea." It was deathly silent in the study. But the flirtatious laughter of Judas and Jezebel still echoed in my ears. These sounds were like a sharp spear stabbing into my temple, stirring my brain into chaos. I met Judas in high school. We started dating in the second year of high school and continued until we were about to graduate from university. For a full 6 years. We had planned to get married at the end of this year. He came from a single-parent family, and his family conditions were not good. But he was a top student. Since I met him, he had always been among the top 3 in the grade rankings. And later in university, he won scholarships every year. He was smart, capable, and good-looking. Except for his poor family background, he could almost be called a perfect example of an ideal boyfriend. And Jezebel was my high school classmate. She once saved me in a car accident and even donated blood to me. Because of this, my family had always been very grateful to her. We sponsored her to go to university. And her monthly living expenses were the same as mine. We almost doted on her as half of our own daughter. I used to think that I had both a fulfilling friendship and love, a harmonious family, and a smooth career. I thought I was a winner in life. But now, one is my boyfriend and the other is my good friend. They told me personally in the wedding room prepared for me by my family that what I thought was just my imagination. I was just a poor worm deceived by their alliance and a pawn to provide them with material help. They were sucking my blood and still thought the blood wasn't sweet enough. "Astraea, don't be sad. We brothers will rush down right now to catch that scumbag for you, and let you vent your anger. You can tell us how to deal with him. My childhood friend Maxwell was eager to go out aggressively. And a large group of people behind him echoed his words. At this moment, I couldn't help but be a little glad that the sound insulation of the house was good. We were talking in the study on the second floor, and the people in the living room downstairs couldn't hear us at all. No need. Thank you all. But before I could finish my words, Serena, with her impatient temper, interrupted me. What do you mean no need? He treated you like this. Astraea, you're not still thinking of marrying such a person, are you? Of course not. I took a deep breath, reopened the monitoring screen, and looked at the man and woman still entangled on it. My heart seemed to have a piece torn away, and it hurt badly. I won't marry him. I'll refuse to give him what he wants. Since he has the guts to deceive me, he should have the guts to bear the consequences. I'll make him pay the price. Please also keep this a secret from me. Let's just pretend that we didn't see what happened today. I took a moment to calm down and then looked at the large group of friends I had called to celebrate Judas's birthday behind me. Astraea, don't worry. Just do what you want to do. We will definitely play our part well in this drama. With Maxwell taking the lead, everyone was indignant and all agreed to keep today's incident a secret from me. Then, what should we do now? These two people are so shameless. They won't stay here and have fun all night. Will they? It was Judas's classmate Ryan who spoke. He was also Judas's partner and was in the same social circle as me. He took out his phone and fiddled with it for a while. And then looked up at me and said, I'll send Judas a message. We'll leave after he's gone. As soon as he finished speaking, Judas, who was in the middle of having fun on the computer screen, got up from Jezebel, unlocked his phone and took a look. His face immediately became serious. Jezebel. Ryan sent me a message saying that Mr. Lee has agreed to meet me. You go back first, and I'll come to see you another day. Jezebel lay on my sofa and didn't want to get up. It's your birthday today. Can't you stay with me a little longer? Judas bent down and kissed her face. Be good. This matter is very important. Then you go first. I want to take a shower here before leaving. Anyway, Astraea won't be able to come back today because of overtime. Jezebel rolled her eyes and then made a request that left me stunned. She looked around, and the greed and jealousy on her face were undisguised. I could hardly suppress the anger in my heart. No. She'll find out. Be good. We have a long time ahead of us. Jezebel was both stupid and bad. But Judas was much more cautious than her. Although he coaxed her softly, his attitude was unyielding. The two of them tittied up the sofa, restored everything to its original state, opened the window for ventilation, and then left together. After about 20 minutes, when we estimated that Judas and Jezebel had already driven away, we came down from the study. Maxwell, Ryan, and the others took the decorations for Judas's birthday and left, while Serena sent me home. Astraea, Mr. Lee has agreed to meet me. If I can successfully get the investment from Mr. Lee, then my project can be established. Wife Astraea, you've worked so hard at work. When my project starts making money, you won't have to work so hard anymore. Perhaps because I hadn't sent Judas a message for a long time, and he was feeling guilty after doing something bad. As soon as I got in Serena's car, his messages came through. How sweet these words used to be, and how disgusting they seemed now. I forced myself to suppress my disgust and complained to him as usual that working overtime was so tiring, and that I was so unhappy that I couldn't go back to accompany him on his birthday. Since he was driving, Judas's message came a while later. Okay. Baby. It doesn't matter. I'm already very happy that you have this thought. In my opinion, the most precious gift can't compare to you. It's too late today. Go home and rest early after you get off work. How about I bring you your favorite xiaolongbao tomorrow? Judas's voice in the voice message was as gentle as ever. If I hadn't seen and heard with my own eyes his schemes against me with Jezebel, it would have been hard for me to imagine that my boyfriend of 6 years was such a person. Serena sent me home. And I also sent Judas a message saying that I had already gotten off work and arrived home. Astraea? What a coincidence. Coincidentally, as soon as I reached the entrance of the apartment building, a sweet voice came from behind me. It was Jezebel. She greeted me with a smile. I just came to visit your uncle and aunt. Last time, your aunt said she liked the scented tea I bought. This time, I bought a little more. Over the past 6 years, Jezebel often came to my house with gifts. My mother also liked her thoughtfulness and sense of responsibility. In the past, I was busy with my studies and work. And I was really grateful that Jezebel could accompany my mother more on my behalf. But now, thinking about it, she might have had some sincere feelings. But she always had a purpose. It was ridiculous that I still regarded her as a true friend and would think of her whenever there was something good. Wow. Jezebel. You're so kind. This morning, my mom was still talking about you, saying that you hadn't visited her for a long time. I never knew that I had such good acting skills. The moment I saw Jezebel, my brain immediately made my body react as usual. And I was even a little surprised by myself. Jezebel naturally took my arm and smiled gently. Here I am. You don't know how many things there are to be busy with after graduation. I'm almost driven crazy. There are also the thesis and work. Oh, I don't know what to do. If it were before, I would definitely say, having fulfilled my essay. And you can just come and do an internship in my family's company. Obviously, Jezebel was also looking forward to my saying these words. But I just didn't do as she wished. The disdain and greed in Jezebel's eyes almost overflowed. Why didn't I notice it before? I sneered inwardly and didn't respond to her provocation. Well, it's like this during graduation. Things will get better once this period passes. Jezebel's expression froze. And I didn't miss the annoyance and anger in her eyes. In fact, after Jezebel entered university, in order to show her thoughtfulness and sensibility, she once told my parents that they didn't need to send her so much money every month, and that she could go out and work part-time to earn her living expenses. My parents agreed. However, every time she came to visit my parents, she would always subtly reveal how hard her life was. She was an orphan with no family. And she was so sensible. My parents were soft-hearted and would always ask me to take care of her, and then transfer money to her. Now, her living expenses are 100 yuan a month, every time she comes to my house. My mother always gives her some extra money. You could say that she's living a comfortable life all thanks to the money from my family. After seeing Jezebel off, my mother was about to transfer money to Jezebel as usual. But I stopped her. My mother looked at me, full of confusion. Astraea. What's wrong? I thought that since my parents loved Jezebel so much, if I told them about what Jezebel and Judas had done, they would surely be heartbroken. Right? But I still told them. Jezebel once saved my life. But over the years, my parents had supported her education and provided her with a good life. However, she colluded with my boyfriend behind my back and betrayed me. The money we gave her in the past was for repaying her kindness. But now that I know the truth, I can't treat her the same way as before. I was very worried that my mother would be sad because of this. But I didn't expect my mother's reaction to be beyond my expectations. This is really too much. My mother said angrily. I never thought she would be such a person. Then she looked at me with pity. Astraea. We won't have any more contact with her in the future. We give Jezebel so much money every month. She has been subtly trying to get us to arrange a job for her. Out of consideration for the fact that she once donated blood to you, we helped her as much as we could. Who would have thought that she would treat you like this behind your back? All our kindness was wasted. Housekeeper Wu. Throw away all these scented teas and those cheap skincare products in the bathroom. I think they're dirty. The support from my family made the tears that I had held back for a long time fall. My mother pulled me into her arms. Don't cry. It's not worth crying for such people. We will meet better people. Stop crying. Okay? After my mother comforted me for a while, a message from Jezebel came. Maybe because the money hadn't arrived yet and she was anxious. In the voice message, she asked my mother how the scented tea tasted. My mother had a poker face. Just as she was about to block her, I quickly stopped her. Mom, it's not the right time yet. Wait for me. I told my mother about my plan. My mother sighed, gently touched my face with pity, and then typed a reply to Jezebel. The tea tastes great. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. There were also 3 little yellow emoticons of hugging and a heart emoji following the message. In order to dispel Jezebel's suspicion, my mother still transferred 10,000 yuan to Jezebel. I could almost imagine the disdainful expression on Jezebel's face on the other side of the phone. But it didn't matter. Soon she wouldn't even have this 10,000 yuan. The next day when I saw Judas again, he was at the entrance of my residential community, sending me to work at the TV station as usual. How was it? Did Mr. Lee agree to invest in you? Judas's face looked very bad. I clearly knew that this Mr. Lee was just a pretext that Ryan made up on purpose to send him away. But I still asked knowingly. I just wanted to stab him in the heart. No. We clearly had an agreement. But Mr. Lee suddenly said he couldn't come, making me make a wasted trip. His expression couldn't hide his irritability. Suddenly, he turned to look at me, and a flash of suspicion crossed his eyes. Baby, what time did you get off work last night? When did your TV station start recording programs so late? I stretched my shoulders and neck, feeling even more irritable than him. Don't mention it. It's that poetry competition program. Didn't one of the contestants have a scandal? Everyone worked overtime yesterday to record it again. If it weren't for my acquaintance with Serena's sister, I wouldn't have been able to go back so early. Serena's sister is my leader at the TV station. Otherwise, even though I'm just an intern, I wouldn't have been able to ask for leave to celebrate Judas's birthday at such a crucial moment for the TV station. By the way, I met Jezebel on my way back. She went to visit my mother. Oh, really? Then you must have had a hard time. When he heard that I met Jezebel, Judas obviously relaxed. Maybe the 10,000 yuan transferred to Jezebel last time was too little in her eyes. In less than 2 days, she came to our house with gifts again. My parents were also at home. We were about to attend Grandpa Maxwell's birthday banquet. I don't know where Jezebel got the news. She looked at me expectantly and asked if she could go with us to broaden her horizons and see if there were any job opportunities. In the past, whenever she looked at me so pitifully and subtly mentioned her background and the danger of saving me from the car accident back then, my parents and I would always agree to her requests. But today, I'm afraid she's going to be disappointed. Astraea, you know that the company of Brother Maxwell's family specializes in hotels. And I'm majoring in hotel management. Can I go with you to gain some experience and learn something? I was almost driven to laughter by Jezebel's shamelessness. What? As a newly graduated student, do you want to learn something at someone else's birthday banquet and plan to open your own hotel in the future? I looked at her with a smile and said 2 words. No. Jezebel's face changed immediately. She then looked at my father and mother. My parents, who knew the truth, treated her much colder than before. She seemed to finally realize her impoliteness and stammered, I'm sorry. Astraea, I know I should have talked to you about this. But Jezebel, I understand what you mean. But this is Grandpa Maxwell's birthday banquet after all. It's not convenient for outsiders to enter. Besides, you don't have a dress or an invitation. I patted Jezebel's shoulder and said gently, it's okay. Grandpa Maxwell's birthday banquet is held at the Shengjing Lihua Hotel. I know they will start their autumn recruitment in a while. If you're really interested, I can recommend you to Maxwell. However, they generally don't hire undergraduate students. If you want to get in, you may have to start as a waiter. The pitiful expression on Jezebel's face cracked a little. She seemed to have never expected that I would refuse. Nor did she expect that I could say such harsh words. Even though what I said was the truth, for the arrogant Jezebel, this was a blatant insult. She didn't have the face to stay any longer. When she left, she forced a smile, and she couldn't even hide the resentment and hatred in her eyes towards me, which my parents saw. What kind of attitude is that? After doing something so sorry to Astraea, does she still expect us to treat her like a princess? My father was extremely angry. My mother pondered and said, I don't know why, but looking at her like this, She doesn't seem to be the one who could have saved our Astraea back then? My heart skipped a beat. What my mother said made me feel that something was fishy too. I'll have someone look into what happened back then again. My father concluded after some thought. Because of Jezebel. We left late, and there was a traffic jam on the way. When we arrived at the Shengjing Lihua Hotel, we were almost the last group of guests. After my parents took me to greet Grandpa Maxwell, they went to chat with others. Maxwell came over and handed me a glass of wine, and tilted his chin in a certain direction of the crowd. Look, guess who's here too? I followed his gaze and saw Jezebel in a white evening dress, following behind Blake and walking towards me with a proud expression. I waited calmly, watching Jezebel put her arm around Blake's in a show-off manner. She smiled gently and generously at me and said understandably, "Astraea, so you couldn't bring me in because you're not familiar with Grandpa Maxwell, and were afraid of being blamed by the Maxwell family. But it doesn't matter. I told President Blake that I wanted to come here to learn from Grandpa Maxwell, and he agreed to bring me. Blake is the son of a director of my father's company. I've known him since I was a child, but he's been abroad and didn't have much contact with Jezebel. But looking at her now, she seems to think that I couldn't bring her here because my family doesn't have as good a relationship with the Maxwell family as Blake's family does. In other words, my family status is not as high as Blake's family's. In fact, it's not her fault. My parents are very low-key. They retired to the second line long ago because of their age. They would rather live in an apartment building and chat and play chess with the old men and women every day than live in a 3-story villa where it's cold and lonely with no one to accompany them. Jezebel always thought that my family's company was small in scale. After all, the clothes I wear never have brands. And I had to work really hard to get into the TV station after graduating from university. As Maxwell said, which rich family would work so hard? Isn't that just asking for trouble? Oops. I'm sorry. Astraea. Did what I say make you unhappy? I didn't mean to say that your family doesn't have a good relationship with Grandpa Maxwell's family. Nor did I mean to say that you and your parents don't have a say here. You just simply look down on me. Now that you think you've found someone powerful to rely on, you don't need to pretend to be nice to me like before. Looking at Blake's stunned expression, I suddenly found the situation becoming interesting. All right. You don't need to say so much. I know what you mean. Since she's not pretending anymore, I don't plan to pretend either. Seeing me interrupt her with a cold face, Jezebel was taken aback, but soon she saw Blake take half a step back. President Blake? What's wrong with you? Jezebel. The only reason I brought you in and promised to arrange a job for you is because of Astraea. But do you really think we can't tell what you meant by the words you just said? Jezebel couldn't quite understand why Blake, who had been so nice to her just now, suddenly changed his attitude. But I knew that for wealthy families like Blake's and Maxwell's that were well known, the schemes they had seen were much more sophisticated than Jezebel's. What she did was just child's play. It was just that I was blinded by our past friendship before and couldn't see it, allowing her to be arrogant for so many years. Blake said with a cold face. Since you look down on Astraea, as well as uncle and aunt so much, I'm sure you also look down on me. I'm sorry, but I take back what I said about arranging a job for you just now. Maxwell looked at me, then raised his hand and called over a waiter. Pointing at Jezebel, he said, "This young lady has come to the wrong place. She's not welcome here. Please ask her to leave." Jezebel was completely flustered. Astraea, I didn't mean that. You've misunderstood me. I shook my head and said in a dejected tone, Jezebel, I regarded you as a good friend, but it turns out this is how you think of me. You really disappoint me. Jezebel still wanted to say something, but the waiter beside her was already politely urging her. Seeing that there were people watching, Jezebel blushed and quickly said to me that we'd talk later. Then she picked up her skirt and ran out. I can't believe it. This Jezebel really has some nerve. Maxwell was sighing beside me about Jezebel's shamelessness and ignorance. Blake explained to me that Jezebel had taken the initiative to approach him. If it weren't for the fact that I had a good relationship with her on a daily basis, he wouldn't have invited her to be his female companion at all. I said I understood. After all, someone like Jezebel, who was so good at pretending, had deceived me and my parents for a full 6 years. After leaving Shangjing Lihua, I received some news. The person who dragged me out of the car that was about to explode back then wasn't Jezebel at all, but a boy. As for the identity of that boy, it couldn't be found out for the time being. However, the surveillance video clearly showed that Jezebel came to my side from the crowd when I had already been rescued and was lying on the roadside. At that time, I was unconscious. She happened to know me and had the same blood type as me, so she falsely claimed to be my savior. I didn't wait for Jezebel to come to me. Instead, I called her first. On the phone, Jezebel's tone was very cautious. She said that what happened today was really an accident. She was also confused because she couldn't find a job after graduation. She also said that she wasn't like me, with both parents alive and a happy family. She was an orphan and had to rely on herself for everything since she was a child. She also vaguely mentioned the car accident I had back then, saying that if it weren't for that day, I'm afraid she and I wouldn't have become friends. Jezebel. Just now, I learned something about the car accident I had back then. Her tone immediately tensed up. What is it? I said. I found the surveillance video of the street where I had the car accident back then. There was an immediate silence on the other end of the phone. I could hear her rapid breathing. I remember that when I woke up. You were clearly wearing a white dress. Why were you wearing our school uniform when you pulled me out? My voice was very soft. Jezebel, can you tell me? The phone call was hung up. A few minutes later, Jezebel called again. I didn't answer. I blocked all her contact information. She knew that I already knew she wasn't the one who saved me back then. But I didn't expose the matter because I was considering the fact that she had donated blood to me back then. She would no longer get the support of my family. There would be no more living expenses or subsidies for her. For someone who had already gotten used to a luxurious life and was always spending money freely and running out of money every month, going back to a penniless life, how could she bear it? She could only hold on to Judas tightly. Judas had been extremely busy with getting investments these few weeks because his partner Ryan had quit. Judas complained to me on the phone that Ryan had given up halfway and wasn't the type of person to do great things at all. I comforted him gently on the phone. But in fact, I knew clearly that it was because Ryan didn't trust that a person like Judas could really run a good company. So he stopped the loss in time. And when I was tidying up that wedding room, I also discovered something very interesting. I installed the surveillance because several clothes and bags in the wardrobe were missing. I suspected that the aunt who came to clean had secretly taken them away. So I wanted to install the surveillance to catch the thief red-handed. Unexpectedly, I had misunderstood the aunt. The real thief turned out to be my boyfriend Judas, who had shared the same bed with me. He had sold several of my idol brand name bags and some jewelry that I didn't often wear. Among them was a necklace that my grandfather gave me when I was a child. It was said that it could buy 2 houses in the city center of Binchang. Looking at Judas's figure in the surveillance video, who took things from my wardrobe calmly, I dialed Judas's phone number. Although Judas's voice was tired, it was full of excitement. He said, "Baby, just one last investment is needed. And this project can start operating. Can you help me? It's really interesting." I remember that Judas clearly majored in computer science. How did he manage to have such good acting skills even though he wasn't from a professional acting background? If he were in the entertainment industry, he would surely win awards one after another. I didn't respond to his words. Instead, I complained to him that I couldn't find several of my bags. On the phone, Judas paused for a second and then quickly soothed me in a gentle voice. "Maybe they're at your parents' house. You have a bad memory and are always forgetful. What would you do without me?" "Listen." What a doting tone. I smiled. "Judas, how much money is still needed for your project? I also want to help you. If it's not a large amount, I'll see if I can talk to my parents about it." His voice was filled with uncontrollable excitement and agitation. 2 million. Astraea. Just 2 million is needed. Once my game is launched, it will definitely be very popular. And you'll be the largest shareholder of our company. My company will be yours. And I will be yours too. My stomach churned. and I felt so nauseous that I wanted to vomit. Okay. And I'll discuss it with my parents. As I said this, Judas coaxed me a few more gentle words and then hung up the phone. Of course, I wouldn't take the initiative to jump into Judas's fire pit. No matter how good his game was, I wouldn't spend any more money on him. I informed my parents and a group of good friends. And then I went to find Judas. With red eyes and full of guilt, I said to Judas, "I'm sorry, my husband. My dad's company is having trouble with capital turnover recently. So I can't help you." Before Judas could speak, I suddenly said excitedly, "But I've thought of a way to help you. I'll mortgage our wedding room to the bank and take out a loan. That'll work." These words immediately dispelled Judas's suspicion. Since things hadn't reached the point of being completely hopeless, Judas regarded that wedding room as his own property. How could he mortgage it out so easily? "Well, that's not necessary. I'll think of another way." Since I didn't get the money, Judas's attitude quickly turned cold. After thinking for a while, I said hesitantly, "Actually, if your project could be postponed for another 2 months, that would be great. Then the funds in my dad's hands will be back, and he can invest in your company. How about this? I'll borrow money for you online. I'll also sell those bags that I don't need anymore and try to scrape together some more money." Judas's eyes lit up. I continued, "But if my dad finds out, he will definitely blame me. And our marriage. We were almost getting married. He coveted my family's company and my parents' property. How could he make my parents unhappy at this time? The best way was for him to borrow the money himself." Judas grabbed my hand. "Astraea, you don't need to borrow the money. I'll do it. But the project's profit will definitely not be high at the beginning. And I may still need your help." I readily agreed. "No problem. In 2 months, the funds in my dad's hands will flow back, and I'll ask him to help you." Sure enough, Judas borrowed a high-interest loan. After Ryan stopped cooperating with him, Judas had absolute power in the company. The game project was carried out in full swing, and he soon became so busy that he was hardly seen. But his project didn't progress smoothly. When Ryan cooperated with him in the first place, he was attracted by the game idea Judas proposed. Ryan invested with his technology and part of the funds. Although Judas won scholarships every year, he was actually not suitable for making games at all. The more anxious he became, the more things went wrong for him. Almost a month passed. The money was spent, but the project came to a standstill. At the same time, the people from the high-interest loan company came to the door. It was only then that I knew that Judas was greedy. 2 million wasn't enough for him. So he directly borrowed 5 million. Anyway, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. My family would help him pay it back later. So he spent the money without any psychological burden. He panicked when the debt collectors came to his door. But he could endure it. I didn't mention taking the initiative to help him pay off the debt because this period happened to be my probation assessment for becoming a full-time employee. And I was also extremely busy. He wanted me to help him pay off the debt, but didn't want to rush me. So he circuitously prepared a proposal ceremony for me. I used to wonder how he would propose to me when I didn't know about his relationship with Jezebel. Although we had already decided to get married. Which girl didn't want her boyfriend to propose to her openly once? When I told him this before, he always promised well but then forgot about it. I didn't expect that this proposal ceremony that I had been looking forward to for a long time would actually happen in such a situation. On my way home from work, I received a message from Serena. She said that everything was ready. I smiled. The good show was about to begin. "Astraea, I've really neglected you too much because of the company's affairs during this period. You once told me that you were looking forward to a dreamy proposal ceremony from me. I spent a long time and finally prepared it, wanting to give you a surprise. What a coincidence. I had also prepared for a long time and was going to give you a surprise." Judas was wearing a white suit, holding a ring in his hand and kneeling on one knee. Behind him were the employees of his company, my friends, our mutual classmates, and Jezebel, who had been avoiding me for a long time. Finding that I didn't mean to pursue the matter with her, she also showed up at the scene. He looked at me affectionately. "Astraea, will you marry me?" I was in a trance for a moment. If I didn't know Judas's true character, and if Serena hadn't told me that Judas was still lingering with Jezebel the day before, I think I might have softened my heart. After all, this was a scene that I had fantasized about for a long time. But now everything was different. I shyly stretched out my hand and pretended to be tearful. He happily hugged me and then put a ring with only a circle of rhinestones on my finger. When I looked up, I saw Jezebel hiding in the crowd. Her eyes looking at me were full of disdain and contempt, as well as deep jealousy. Judas, I also want to give you a surprise. I raised the corners of my lips, took Judas's hand, and turned on the projector in the living room. Serena stood behind Judas and winked at me. I'm really grateful to you, Judas. On the huge screen in the living room of my house appeared, and then there were the figures of Judas and Jezebel snuggling together affectionately on the sofa. At the same time, their unscrupulous laughter and teasing sounds rang out. Judas's face instantly turned pale, and Jezebel let out a scream in the crowd, her face flushing red immediately. Judas looked at me, his voice trembling. Astraea, listen to my explanation. Things aren't as you think. I looked at Judas, whose face was ashen, at his chin covered with stubble and his protruding beer belly. Suddenly, I realized that he was very different from the young and innocent boy in my memory. If it's not as I think, then how is it? Judas, do you know what we were doing when you were on a date with Jezebel on your birthday? Judas stared blankly at me, his expression dull due to panic. We? I pointed at the potted green plant on the coffee table in the living room, which was facing the sofa, and said, you didn't know that I had already installed surveillance cameras at home, did you? I originally wanted to give you a surprise with them that day, but unexpectedly, you gave me a shock first. Judas, you really make me sick. Judas looked at me with a look of panic and disbelief in his eyes. So you saw everything on my birthday? Not just that. It wasn't only Astraea who saw it, but we all did. Serena said coldly, Judas, Astraea has been so good to you. How could you have the nerve to let her down? And you, Jezebel, you've been pretending to be Astraea's savior for all these years and living such a happy life. Not only do you not feel grateful, but you even betrayed her. Don't you feel guilty or scared when you dream at night? The screen froze on the image of Jezebel and Judas entangled with each other. The people involved were right there. Jezebel completely collapsed to the ground and didn't even know how to cry anymore. So all these days, you've been colluding to deceive me? Judas suddenly flew into a rage and stared at me. Was the promise to invest in me also a lie? Was it you who deliberately encouraged me to take out a high-interest loan? Astraea, you deliberately framed me. Ryan and Maxwell restrained the enraged Judas. I pressed the remote control, and the projector projected the scene of Judas in my cloakroom. I installed the surveillance cameras originally to catch thieves, but I didn't expect that the thief was right beside me. Judas, you really hid yourself well. Astraea, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I didn't do it on purpose. You're so rich. And we were about to get married soon. Your things are mine, aren't they? It's just a few bags and some pieces of jewelry. When my game makes money, I'll buy you more. Astraea. When his fierce attitude didn't work, Judas looked at me pleadingly. I found it ridiculous and pitiful. How could I have fallen for such a person in the first place? And how could I have wasted 6 years of my life on such a person? I took a deep breath and was about to speak when there was a sudden knock on the door. It was the police. I was stunned. I had planned to call the police, but I hadn't done it yet. How did the police come by themselves? Are you Judas? We're from the Binchang City Public Security Bureau. We now suspect that you stole business secrets and have committed the crime of infringing on business secrets. Please come with us. Stealing business secrets? Judas's face turned even paler than before. His lips were trembling, and he looked at me with a panicked and terrified expression, as if asking for help. But the handcuffs had already been put on his wrists, and the police quickly took him away. Later, I learned that the game-creative plan that made Judas so full of ambition and convinced that he could achieve great things wasn't actually made by him at all. He had stolen it from his roommate, Phoenix. I took the surveillance video to the police and reported him for stealing property, which was worth up to 1 million yuan. With the two crimes combined, he was sentenced to 18 years in prison. He's already 24 years old this year. By the time he gets out of prison, he'll be 42. More than half of his life will have passed, and with such a heavy debt on his back, he won't have an easy life for the rest of his life. After being sentenced, Judas asked to see me, but I didn't go. There was no need for it anymore. I knew that he had paid the price for what he had done. Such a disgusting and unlucky person was not even worth a glance, as it would just be a waste of my time. I soon received some good news. I passed my probation assessment and officially became a host at the TV station. Half a month after Judas was sentenced, Ryan came to see me and brought someone with him, who was Judas's roommate, Phoenix. Compared with the not-so-perfect game creative plan that Judas stole, Ryan told me that the final plan in Phoenix's hands was the most promising and worthy of investment. He came from a single-parent family and had a poor family background, but he was a top student. Since I met him, he had always been among the top 3 in the grade rankings. Later, in university, he also won scholarships every year. Author's note, but I always felt that the way Phoenix looked at me was a bit strange. Very complicated, but I was sure that I had never seen him before. Later, I couldn't hold back anymore and asked him. He was silent for a while and then stared at me. Don't you really remember me? After that, I saw Phoenix's information in the list of students sponsored by my parents. I thought this was the beginning of our fate. It wasn't until my parents finally found out the person who had saved me from the car accident scene. It was Phoenix. At first, my parents thought that Jezebel had saved me. They were very grateful to her. Later, in order to accumulate good fortune for me, while sponsoring Jezebel, they also sponsored a group of poor students. And Phoenix was one of them. And it was only recently, after getting to know me better, that Phoenix found out that Jezebel had stolen his identity as my savior all those years ago. I hadn't heard any news about Jezebel for a long time. Later, Serena told me that she wasn't having a good time. She was always lingering among various wealthy businessmen. Some time ago, she was beaten and had a miscarriage by a wealthy businessman's wife and would never be able to have children again. The next time I saw her was in a bar. A year after the game was launched, it became popular on the internet, and the company held a small celebration banquet. Everyone came to the bar to relax. Jezebel's face had an abnormal stiffness. All her original delicacy and beauty were gone, and she looked very strange. She was snuggling up to a short and fat man and giggling carpathiously. Her face was full of greed and ambition, and she was unrecognizable. I was a bit distracted. Phoenix leaned over and kissed me on the lips, and said gently, "What are you thinking about? Are you not feeling well? Do you want to go home and rest?" I shook my head and met his gaze full of love and tenderness. "It's okay. It's not easy to come out and relax, so I can't spoil everyone's fun." Phoenix frowned instead. "If you're really not feeling well, don't worry so much. You're the most important." Ryan and my colleagues in the company started to tease us. I couldn't help but laugh and gently pushed Phoenix. "I'm really okay." Phoenix still wasn't reassured. He took my hand and admonished, "And you must tell me if you have anything wrong." I smiled and agreed. When I looked up again, Jezebel was already following the short and fat man toward the door. The man's hand was not very honest and was resting on her waist, and it was still moving downward. I averted my gaze. In life, it's inevitable to make mistakes and take the wrong path. But what's truly valuable is the courage to correct one's mistakes and the determination to move forward firmly. I'm very glad that I didn't lose the ability to love because of what happened with Judas. As for Jezebel and Judas, they chose their own paths, and they can't blame anyone else. Author, still half hiding behind the peep at the end of the full text.